Steven Harvey Sr., and I am your host. Today, my guest and I will be discussing immigration. Oxford Languages defines immigration as the action of coming to live permanently in a foreign country. With me, I have Marjane Satrapi, an Iranian teen, Amir, an Iranian immigrant to the United States, and Joseph Kony, a Ugandan militant.
Hello, it's good to be here. I'm honored. First, I'd like to say that immigration isn't really a problem or controversial thing in my country. So I can't relate to you guys on many levels. However, my opinions about this still exist, even if they're not correct. Since the LRA has been formed and has been known, immigration to Uganda has been limited. Since the late 80s when I formed the LRA, immigration was still growing and people were immigrating to Uganda up until 2005. But from 2005 from 2010, those numbers slowed down and was about a 20% decrease, according to a relatively recent article. The LRA was responsible for the displacement of 2.5 million civilians between 1987 and 2012. So a lot of people were blaming my country for the immigrants coming out of Uganda.
And next we'll hear from Marjane. Hey, I'm Marjane Satrapi, and I am a former resident of Iran. It's an honor to be here to talk with you guys about immigrants and how they don't get talked about enough. I became an immigrant when my country was being bombed and one of them happened to hit my house. I would end up moving myself to Austria to continue my education. I'm glad to be on the show tonight because I think it's important to discuss this topic, and I know I'm a good source for first-hand information. I think it's important to treat immigrants nicely, or at least better than we do right now. Nobody knows what their past looks like and why they might be here.
Much like Marjane, I've experienced immigration firsthand, and I think I would be a great resource. What?
You'd be a great resource.
Yes,
Yeah,
especially for this this topic in this conversation. And I'm excited to share my story and hopefully spread some positive information.
Okay. So now this brings me to my first question, okay? So how do attitudes toward and treatment of immigrants differ over time and around the world? Let's start with Marjane.
I personally think that the idea of immigration is going in the wrong direction, Steve. People are increasingly growing hatred toward immigrants, and it's hard to see being an immigrant myself.
I see. Now we'll go to Amir.
In my country, immigration is frowned upon because we're expected to stay in our country and fight till the end. That's the morale back in my country. So usually immigrants leave kind of silently without telling a lot of people.
I see. And then Joseph.
This question cannot be answered correctly. However, I think the attitudes toward immigrants depend a lot on the state of the political situation in the country and the culture in the country at the time. For example, there's been many negative attitudes toward people from the Middle East and the U.S. since the 9/11 attacks, but over time it's faded. In present day, it's hardly a problem. So obviously it'll fade over time, and for different parts of the world, it changes. It depends on the countries. I think that people would react in the same way, no matter what country they're from. I don't think it's fair, but it happens. In cases like in my country, I don't think we would discriminate against immigrants. If someone makes a child soldier, then they're good in my eyes. I don't care about the background or race of that person. Thank you, Broderick.
Okay, good. Now I'd like to move on to my second question. What are your views on immigrants? Let's start with Marjane.
I think that we need to respect them more and try to see from their perspectives because they might be escaping danger.
I see. And then now we'll go to Amir.
Much against most of the people back where I'm from, I think I agree with Sawyer, and I think we really have to look. Well, I agree with Marjane, and I really do think we have to look through their eyes and see what they're experiencing.
I see. And now we'll go to Joseph.
Wait, and finally, Joseph.
Yeah, and finally, Joseph, we'll go to you.
Last but never least, anyways, as I said before, a person is a person. So if they immigrate to a country, I don't think you should judge them. It doesn't matter for the background. You know, they want to move to your country for a good reason, presumably. I don't really favor people that don't make a good soldier in my country. So whenever people immigrate, it helps the LRA more. So I cannot complain.
I see. And then I wanted to ask another question now, which is, are any of you immigrants?
Yes.
Let's go to Amir first.
I am.
You are an immigrant?
Yes.
From where?
My own.
I see. And then we'll go to Joseph next. Joseph, are you an immigrant?
I am not an immigrant.
Okay. And then Marjane, are you an immigrant?
Yes.
Okay. And then next question will be, how has being an immigrant affected you? And first we'll start off with Amir.
Well, pretty much everything about my life has changed in all aspects. My financial situation is extremely different, coming from a very wealthy background down to where I am now. I'm not complaining, but yes. Also, the culture has been much different, and that's pretty hard to get used to.
I see. Yeah, culture change can always be such a shock.
That's facts.
And then Marjane, I'd like to go to you next.
Repeat the question, Broderick.
It was, how has being an immigrant affected you?
I learned to respect and sympathize more with immigrants, but it's also turned my life upside down, having to move away from my family so fast.
Yes, that can always be troubling. And then next I'll go to my next question, since Joseph is not an immigrant and cannot answer the previous question. Do you know anyone, including family members, who were or are immigrants? This time we'll start off with Marjane.
My uncle Anush was an immigrant. He immigrated twice, actually. Once to Russia and again back to Iran.
I see. And then we'll go to Amir next.
Yes, my father, who is very close to me, is an immigrant, and he's still kind of adjusting to the new environment.
Oh yes, it can always be tough. And then we'll go to Joseph next.
I don't know any immigrants. My family and I don't talk anymore. We're very disconnected, and I don't know anyone that's an immigrant besides some of the soldiers, but I don't know them on a personal level, so I would say no.
Okay, I see. And then the next question I have is, how has immigration impacted you? This time we'll start again with Amir.
Like I said before, immigration has changed pretty much everything about my life.
Yes, I see. And then we'll go to Joseph next.
So for me, immigration has impacted me a lot. Not personally, but for the group, the LRA, it's changed the soldiers a lot. Whenever new people come into the group, you don't really know what to expect, if they're on the other side or if they're really on your side. So immigration is a tough thing to deal with for the LRA.
I see. And then lastly, we'll end with Marjane.
I'm glad I moved to Austria, but I will always miss my grandparents and my parents back home.
Yes, I see. Well, it looks like we're out of time, so I would like to thank our guests for participating in our discussion today. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Hey, don't worry about it.
Yeah. Jack, how many minutes is that?
Disclaimer, I do not actually believe what I said, and I'm playing the role of a character.
Disclaimer and trigger warning. Do not be offended. I'm just playing a role of Joseph Coney. So look out for that.
Okay.
Disclaimer, I'm playing a character, and not all the opinions discussed are necessarily my opinions.